already got the shields, so I already have the tabs. And you get to be immortal, in a sense, because you're constantly reborn and have awesome adventures that you know you're always going to win at. And that's the dude for me, Link, for sure.
You wouldn't be able to talk anymore.
Don't care.
Alright, so not Link for me then. Second choice would be Sonic, because my daughter really likes Sonic. She's not paying attention, no.
Nice. I've got an A and a B to this. My A would be Sabin from Final Fantasy III because he suplexes a train. Final Fantasy VI. It's Final Fantasy III for people who played it on the Super Nintendo. But if I were to die, which is going to happen one day, I would go with Clyde from Pac-Man. Because he's a lot more memorable than Inky, Blinky, or Pinky.
All right, more questions over there.
Me? For those of you who've played action parts, what do you do to protect your voice from the screaming?
Okay, for those of us who have played action parts, what do you do to protect your voice from all the screaming? So, that end, maybe?
If you get involved in the theatrical arts, you need to learn very early on to harness your diaphragm. Use your diaphragm. It's going to do a lot for you, give you a lot of power without straining your vocal cords. But sometimes that can be a choice. But that's also a very limited, utility thing. So for me, it's harnessing my breath, using my diaphragm, and going for it.
I just go for it. I just try to sell into the emotion. Unless it's a really low-paying gig, and I gotta work the next day or something, then I'm like, maybe I'll dial it back. But usually I just go for it.
Yeah, I'm old school. I'm from a theater background, so I get teased by some other voice actors, but I actually do warm-ups in the morning before I go to my sessions.
Can we hear some?
Maybe if it wasn't Sunday. But I actually have a tendency to play a lot of younger characters in their teens and tweens. Yeah, and which I actually find more difficult than some of the yelling because it's a higher tension in your vocal cords, so I make sure to warm up appropriately. So if I'm going to do a role where I'm speaking a little deeper in my voice, I'll warm up my mid-range and what little low voice that I have. But if I'm going to do something high, I definitely spend a lot of time working up and down a musical scale in my high voice in a supported way with my diaphragm. What was that?
Have you ever thought it was going to be a low speaking role and showed up and it was not?
Yes. No, I emailed my agents one morning because I was casting something and I didn't know what part I was playing and I had read for 2 parts. And I said, hey, I hate to ask, but who am I playing so I know how to prepare for this? Because some guys have a huge range and they just go in and it doesn't matter. They've just got the natural chops. So
4 guys. Okay,
that meant 4. I'm not one of them.
I also come from a theater background, so ditto what they say. The diaphragm is really important, and warming up is really important. I warm up too, so I'm with you. But the thing is, when you're doing, the thing is to try to keep your throat relaxed, and don't put it here. It's possible. The way the rock singers do it is they use that diaphragm in the air and they push it right behind the nose. So instead of doing it here, you do it here, and it's a little different, and you can last a lot longer. Also, when I'm doing screaming parts, I insist on a break every 50 minutes, a 5 or 10 minute break, and I take a sip of water after almost every line I record. And so hydration and all that stuff helps you.
Yeah, I mean, all of that, that's all good advice. Breath support, a lot, having just as much air as you can in there, because when you start to run out of air, everything constricts, and that's where it goes bad. Think of it as like any other muscle when you're working out. It's the same kind of feel. For me also, depending on high or low or screaming or not, the time of day that I book stuff, if it's a real screamy thing or a real high thing, I don't want to do it first thing in the morning. I'd rather do it later in the day. And it was funny when you guys were talking about, like, you know, you get booked for a thing and it turns out to be something else. I do remember getting a role in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, and when I auditioned for it, I was sick. So it was like deeper than I can ever actually normally go. And they were like, "Hey, we were really surprised. This was like, you don't normally get down that low." And I'm just being like, "Oh no," like, ugh, you know, just trying to like regain that, you know, just inhale some Ebola.
That's where mic technique comes in.
Right, so then you get the mic technique, you can get closer and you can get a lot of those the lower tones in the breath and everything, but still. Yeah, breath, warm up, all that stuff. And then to some extent, Johnny was saying, you gotta go for it. You gotta go, I mean, you can't...
But you're paid for it.
You can't half-ass a scream. If the guy on screen is really just ripping his throat out, you gotta make it seem like, you don't necessarily have to exactly do that, but you can't, you know, you can't fake it. You've gotta go for it. You've gotta sell it. You know, make it real.
Everything you've just heard from these gentlemen is true and correct for them. I've been doing voice acting for well over 30 years. I've torn my throat to pieces, smoking, drinking, partying. I went to bed at 7 this morning. I can scream any role all day long and not lose my voice. I partied until 7 a.m. this morning. Do I sound like it? I never lose my voice. So they are correct, because they're all so young. I've torn my voice up so bad over the years that it's conditioned to it. I think my vocal cords might be scarred, possibly.
Or titanium.
I can scream all frickin' day! That's brisk, baby! And never lose my voice. I don't know why. Because I'm an old hack.
I am not an old hack, but I will give you a cautionary tale.
But she's a screamer.
Yeah. That's 2 on you, John. So I did an audition where I was required to scream, and they asked for more than 1 take, and I really put it all out there, and I actually really hurt my vocal cords. And I gave it a few days to heal up, but then I went in for more work, and it really didn't heal up like I thought it was, and I ended up having to go to a voice doctor, which I should have been doing from the beginning. That's what I'm calling a voice doctor. Anyway, I actually had a hemorrhage on my vocal cords. And so they put the thing up my nose and went down there and looked at my vocal cords, and there's like blood on them that they could see. And I had to go on a 6-week vocal rest. And for a voice actor, that kind of stunk. So yeah, it was 3 days of complete silence, which was awful. I got very introspective and solved all the problems of the world. Then I forgot them all on the 4th day. But so then it was 6 weeks of just complete vocal rest, no voice acting at all. And man, it was awful. So even though it works for this gentleman, I say definitely warm up your voice before you do any type of long-winded talking, at least. So yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay, so yeah, front row, right there.
I have no idea what to say about that. I didn't write it. I think in the uncut version that we're doing, I think we're going with his original name, which is Mamoru, right?
Yeah.
So they changed it to Darian for the original dub. And I think in that, he's 19, which I don't think that makes it better. So maybe we should just sort of write it off as a cultural difference. And that was his answer, not mine.
In some parts of Japan, 14 is legal. I
Well-
looked it up.
Now, why did you look it up is the question.
Very good question.
Still with the question, that's why I looked it up.
Okay, I know, but no one's judging you. I don't know. Maybe we just put the ages aside and call it a pretty love story for now. How about that?
Okay. Right there and on the end. Yeah, you.
So in this room, you all have fans in this room, people who geek out to meet you, get really excited. Is there anybody that you've met in your careers that you geeked out over?
Okay, so the question is if how we have fans who geek out over us, but have we ever met anybody that we have geeked out over?
I can go real fast.
Great.
I met Steve Bloom today. He's really awesome, and I kind of geeked out. It was kind of hard not acting like a fanboy in front of him because I love his body of work and his talent level is off the hook. So yeah, I kind of geeked out and acted like an asshole, like a fanboy.
Like an
In front of
anus.
Steve today.
How about that?
I hope he doesn't mind.
Anybody that plays in my favorite stuff, of course I always geek over, but I do have a story for you that's really, really quick. When I first started voice acting, Caitlin Glass, who's a voice actor here this weekend, I geeked out over her when I first started. Because she would play Triella in Gunslinger Girl, and that's my favorite anime. So, I had an audition for her because she was a director at the time, and I don't know if you know what extensions are, but I had some clip-in blonde extensions for my hair. And I put these this is 5 years ago, I put these big pigtails and long pigtails because I thought that was super cute, and I went to audition, and when I walked in, I was like, it's Caitlin Glass! And now it's fine, we're buddies and whatever. But at the time, she said, you did a great job auditioning, and by the way, I just love your hair. And I was like, oh, thanks, it's fake. I mean, it's not fake, it's real hair. It's just not my hair. It's probably a dead girl's hair or something. It's actually real hair. Actually, let me just show you how this works. And I like pulled out my extension, and the sound engineer was just like, oh. And, but I was too far to stop. So I just went through it, and she ended up casting me, and that's how I got my first lead role. Yes!
Yeah. You know, I met Stevie Wonder once, and I didn't even know what to say, you know, and I'm sure I looked dumbfounded, not that he noticed, but, oh, I know, sorry. But, like, honestly, like, meeting him, I was just like, wow, because he's a genius, he's amazing. More in the zone of what we do, earlier this year, I've gotten to know Billy West. Anybody knows Billy West? Yeah. And, you know, Billy was Ren and Stimpy, and he's like, you know, Fry, Zoidberg, the Professor, Zap Brannigan on Futurama, all this. And my kids and I are huge fans of Futurama. And I've gotten to do a few events with him this year, so we've like become friends and everything, and that was really cool, because here's a guy that, I mean, I love his work, but also look to almost like as a mentor, like someone, you know, who's doing what I do, and the fact that I have been able to become friends with him was really cool. And also the fact that like that's one that impressed my children. So, you know, that's whatever, because we, you know, I mean, you know, Johnny, you got a little girl there. We only got so many years before they're like, yeah, shut up about your cartoon job, Dad. Anyway, but yeah, so that's for me.
I had two instances. The very first convention I ever did was a Robotech convention back in the 80s, and they were attached to Star Trek. And I finished my panel, and if you're a guest at something like a convention like this and you've never been to, it can be a little overwhelming, because it can be. And I'm done, and my head is reeling. I'm done with my panel. Security's taking me through a crowd, which was freaking me out to begin with. And they sit me down at the autograph table. I'm sitting right next to James Doohan. I've got Scotty sitting next to me. And I'm a total Trekkie fan. So here I am trying to be the professional, cool actor, signing autographs, thank you very much. And I'm going, oh my God, it's Scotty! Sorry. And the other time is I was directing a documentary, and the producers hired Donald Sutherland to do the voice. So I got to direct Donald Sutherland, and as a director, you have to maintain a certain equality. So, you know, it's not Mr. Sutherland, it's, hi Donald, how you doing? And he'd go, Tony, can I change a few words? Sure, Donald, no problem. And instead I'm like, I can't believe I just told Donald Sutherland what to do. Those are nice.
You know, I'm like an undercover pop culture geek at heart, so pretty much anytime I meet someone that's doing voiceover for a living, I geek out secretly and then pretend to be professional. I mean, I'm totally professional, but my big one was all in one go. I did a reoccurring guest star on Transformers Rescue Bots, and it's like a preschool Transformers show, and it's a really cool show, but the cast is insane. So I walk in the door on my first day on the show, and it's Steve, and it's DC, who I think is also here, but it's also Maurice LaMarche, the voice of, Brain and Pinky and the Brain, and he's, a ton of Emmys, Futurama, all this stuff. And it's Jeff Bennett, Johnny Bravo, and it's Jason Marsden, not Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and just a huge VO actor. And then all these other new people, directed by Jenny McSwain, who's like animation, and I almost pooped my pants. Because it was one of those situations, it was traditional animation, and we were all in the room, and we're all gonna do the whole script top to bottom over the course of 4 hours. And that was about 2.5 years ago, and that was a moment where I was like, okay, this is scary, but awesome. And that was my major geek out moment, and I managed to keep it together and my pants clean, and you can watch the show.
I met Vic Mignogna. I almost got his autograph, but the line was too long. I actually pooped my pants. No, seriously, Jackie Chan, actually. Jackie Chan. And Sammo Hung, I don't know if you know who Sammo Hung is, but those guys.
Mine was not career related. I was in high school at a science fiction convention in Dallas, and I was in line to get an autograph from Billy D. Williams. I got a picture for myself and a picture for my sister. We were both big Star Wars fans. And I'm standing in line, I'm like, this is cool, this is really cool, he is the epitome of cool. And I get up there and I'm like, hi, Mr. Calrissian. And then I just took my autographs and walked away. But I had one that was career related the other day. I was seated next to Mr. Brad Swale at the autographs the other day. And somebody handed him a Rama 1/2 DVD booklet, and I was like, why are you... I went to Anime News Network on my phone, and I spasmed, and I was like, I just realized who I'm sitting next to! And then I walked away with my autographs.
And allow me to introduce Mr. Brad Swale, everybody. So Brad, if you want to get in on this last question that we were just asked, which is a person or celebrity or whatever that who you once met and really got to geek out over.
That's such a good question. Okay, so I was at, this is not this past summer, but the summer previously, I was at a show called the Fan Expo in Toronto, and I met Stan Lee. So I was lucky enough to play Nightcrawler in a series called X-Men Evolution. So I had a poster that I bought on eBay ages ago because there's very few Evolution posters out there. So I found one and I bought it, and then I was going to this convention and Stan Lee was going to be there. So I'm like, I have to get this thing autographed. So I managed to somehow weasel my way in to getting an autograph, and it was an ordeal. I had to go into a waiting room and hide behind the curtain and do all kind of stuff. And then it's, Mr. Lee, we'll see you now. So I walked out there and I said, oh, Mr. Lee, it's really nice to meet you. I was lucky enough to work on X-Men Evolution. I played Nightcrawler, and he said, and you were terrific at it. I'm like, oh my God, I freaked out a little bit. Now that same weekend, Hulk Hogan called me brother. I held the door for him in the green room, and he's like, thanks, brother. I'm like, and to top that, this is how Canadian I am. The big thing where I actually turned ghostly white and had a hard time speaking is I met an idol of mine, a hockey player named Joe Sakic. Yeah. And I got him to sign I'm getting even just thinking about it, right? I don't really get starstruck. But I guess for sports celebrities, I do. And so I got this autographed jersey, and it was really cool. Yeah, it was a good day.
All right, cool. All right, more questions. You right there.
actual speaking voice? And can you sample it, please?
Okay, of the roles you played, which is the furthest from